What's up, War Report family? It's your boy C Dub. In a few days, the transfer portal opens up. So we ask you guys, which position group on Auburn's football team will get hit the hardest by players leaving? Also, we'll talk a little basketball and who Bruce Pearl and company may pick up out of the portal this coming season. So we'll talk about that and more in the latest edition of the Mid-Week Rapport. Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to the Mid-Week Rapport brought to you by auburnsports.com. Guys, definitely support them as they have been supporting us since day one. Shout out to JG Tate and the guys for what they do over there. So please go support them. Check out their content. Check out their stories that they're writing. They do great work over there, and we appreciate them. We appreciate you guys for hanging out with us on a Wednesday evening. And while you're hanging out with us, or even if you're watching this on replay, share this content so people can find it, join in on the conversation, and help us grow this community. Now, we need your help. Smash that like button. Let us know that you're here. Help us with the YouTube algorithm. Also, subscribe if you're new to the channel. And we got content that's coming. Ike has already been watching A-Day. He's getting ready to get some work, put in some work, show y'all what we need to be excited about, what we may need to be praying about to get that information. Tell them how you get that.
Praying about.
Go ahead and hit that join button. You know what I'm saying? Hit that join button and you can come on and join the greatest internet community that ever existed. The War Report members get all of the thoughts from my mind about Auburn sports, which means it's the best thoughts that ever existed about Auburn sports. $5.99 gets you to right there in that place, man. So y'all come on board with that. And we appreciate everybody for watching film with us. And it's really about y'all, though. You know what I'm saying? It's not about us. It's about y'all. We do this for y'all. That's an inside joke about who I'm making fun of. Membership gifting is a thing that you can do. If you are a member from the live chat right now, you can gift a membership to somebody else. You can go ahead and come on board with the War Report family, courtesy of somebody else for 1 month. And then after that, you have to do it on your own because, you know, we're not going to support your habits, even if it's a good habit forever. War Report mugs are what we're giving away today. So if you want one of those, you need to hashtag get your weight up right now in the live chat. Sponsored by War Eagle Oil. Head to wareagleoil.com for all of your motor oil and motor related products. Hashtag get your weight up. We will be doing the drawing around the 1 hour mark. You have to be present to win. So if you do the hashtag and then you peace out, then, you know, I'm sorry, but we're going to move on to the next person because life is cruel and you have to learn lessons like that. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, yeah, let's get with it.
Guys, the transfer portal opens up in a few days. We don't know who Auburn's getting out the transfer portal, but based on what we've observed from spring, based on what we saw on A-Day, based on what we've been hearing up to this point, there's been guys who we haven't heard much from, guys that we probably didn't see a lot of. So we're going to speculate a little bit. We don't know much. Some things we may know, but we want to talk about position groups that could potentially be hit the hardest. Now, we can start with position groups or rooms that are kind of crowded. Those are kind of the usual suspects. I'm looking over at the safety room. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on that because we were hearing some of the usual guys at safety. There were some names that, you know, we were hearing. I was hearing Donovan Kaufman. We found out that Austin Osbury moved over to safety during the spring. We did not know that. B. Will was curious why we wasn't hearing his name at cornerback, which he was originally recruited for. So just to get you guys' thoughts on the safety room, do you suspect anyone, if at all, could potentially be on their way out the door from that room, given that you're only playing X amount of guys and there's a lot of bodies in that room? I'll start with you, B. Will. What's your thoughts on the safety position?
Somebody going somewhere. I don't know. I don't know who.
Okay. Insightful.
Yeah.
Listen,
Very specific.
Donovan Kaufman is a starter.
Mm.
Jalen Simpson is a starter.
Okay.
Between Marquise Gilbert, Caden Bridges, and Caleb Wooden, any one of those guys could start. That's 5 guys, 2 spots, and that's not counting the safeties that we got coming in the summer.
Don't forget Craig McDonald.
Oh, yeah.
Caden Bridges.
See,
He
Mac?
said Caden Bridges.
That's
and
it,
Caleb
Bridges. Yeah. That's a lot of people, man. That's 6 safeties here on the roster, with at least 2 more coming in. Like they said, they might turn one of those guys to a hybrid, like safety linebacker thing. I don't. Is anybody gonna sit here and be like, "Hey, man, you got 1 or 2 years of eligibility left"? Zion Puckett's still here.
Mhm.
What are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
He's actually the guy I'm sitting there looking at like, I don't know, family.
We got 7 safeties on the roster right now.
I don't know if
Mhm.
he still got
At least 2 more safeties coming in the summer.
I was expecting Zion Puckett, like most people, to see if he was going to make that move to a different position group, right?
Yeah, I thought linebacker might have been a good spot for him to slide down and do that, but he did not. He stayed in the safety room, and I'm just like, no, unless he's gonna be working out at the Star, I just don't.
Of the 7 guys that are here right now, I think Zion Puckett and Craig McDonald were probably at the bottom of that list, as far as what I saw from them prior to this spring and what I saw from them in A-Day. The other guys have not played as much, but I like what I've seen from Caleb Wooden early. Limited snaps last season and in A-Day. He's a bit of a baller. And I think he's got some snaps guaranteed to him. The other 2 guys, Puckett and McDonald, I don't know how they break this rotation. I think all the other guys will probably be ahead of them. And then you still got some highly talented safety recruits coming in. What are you going to do with them? Where are they going to go? Where are they going to play? There are 4 or 5 guys ahead of them that have played better than them because, of course, those 4 or 5 guys have played. These other guys haven't. Could it be a K and Lee situation where one guy comes in and he's just the realist? Possibly. But the difference is I think we got at least 2 safeties that are quite real, even if it's not the ones that necessarily will start the season. I don't know how anybody is hoping to break through at safety if you aren't already in that top 3 or 4. Puckett and McDonald, I would say most likely. I don't know what McDonald's eligibility is as far as, does he transfer here once from Iowa State? Has he graduated? I don't know. So, I mean, I guess that's a question.
No, he is listed currently as a sophomore.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at the roster right now. Craig McDonald is listed as a sophomore on here. So
he's not going to go anywhere then. But he's also probably not going to get a lot of snaps. So
I don't think so.
Man. But see, the same thing with Zion Puckett, though. Like at this point in the game, do you go somewhere else just to play? Or do you go, man, you know what?
He's a senior, though, right? Like, and he hasn't
So
transferred. I mean, he hasn't been anywhere. So he is the one that could leave with no situation. He can't go to another SEC school right now and play this year, but he could go to some other Power 5 conference, Group of 5 school and play immediately, I would assume.
Yeah. Who knows? But that's
out of that room, though, that's the guy I would be looking at and saying, I don't know where your snaps coming from, family. Like, he could play star, but like, so of the safety room, right? Like, he could play star. Donovan Kaufman could play star, right? So you could bump either of those guys down into a star position, and then you could have your back end be Marquise Gilbert and Wooden or Simpson, right? Or Bridges, right? You could rotate those guys. So you could have a star rotation that would look like something like Keontae Scott, Donovan Kaufman, and Zion Puckett, right? 1, 2, 3 at that position. And so maybe that's where he gets his snaps in. But I just don't know. I just don't know how, even with that, you're talking about, would you play him in front of Keontae Scott at the star, in front of Donovan Kaufman at the star?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike G, what's your thoughts on the safety room, man?
Look, we talked a lot about DBs. Ultimately, again, you've got guys like Marquise Gilbert still in there, who was the #1 overall JUCO safety in the country when they brought him in.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't heard much about him this spring.
Made some good plays at A-Day.
Yeah, the move of Ausberry to safety is definitely curious to me. Like, they feel like they need help there. What's going on there? Ultimately, I could see them bringing in a body or two here if there's somebody that actually improves the room. Now, I think there's enough guys there. They don't have to reach for bodies, because I think Kaufman is pretty solid, right? But after that, one of these guys has to show some promise. So you're either playing young talent. So you're either going with Ausberry if he picks it up. I don't know how much experience he has at safety. Or you're going with one of these guys who has played a lot of football at this level. No, Craig McDonald, I think he was kind of slow.
No, he definitely
on
is
the slow
not
side.
the fleetest of foot.
Right, yeah.
It's probably going to be Jalen Simpson, though. Like that,
Yeah.
that to me is probably the most obvious choice to throw.
But you need a guy behind your guy. So
yeah, for sure.
They definitely need depth. And I think there's enough bodies here for depth. Just how much do they like those bodies, and how have they performed this spring is something that I would love to ask the defensive coaches about if we got a chance, because it's post 8A, man, and if they haven't already, they should be sitting down with players eval this spring and talk about how these guys did. And we talk about it a lot at quarterback with them saying, "Oh, they're going to bring a guy in." Well, at every position, that discussion needs to be happening with players who are trying to start, learning where they stand. So, as this develops, I'll be interested to see who emerges and who decides they're going to jump in the portal. It could happen as early as Saturday.
Right.
Saturday, we could see, Craig is like, old McDonald had a farm, but it wasn't in Auburn. So he's out. Right. Come on, B. Come on.
Come on, Tom. That was so obvious, man. You better than that.
All right. So, I mean, at the end of the day, safety is probably. I'm not super worried about this position. I think Auburn has two guys that can do the job. Right.
I just think this is just an obvious one in terms of seeing someone leave. I'm keeping an eye out on Austin Ausberry, just because he's being asked to move to a position that's already has bodies. It's one thing when you ask a guy to move over and you see him actually getting reps at that position, right? Because you need help there. But when he's moving to an already crowded room, I don't know. I really don't know about that one. Also, too, probably maybe a Caden Bridges as well, because he's one of those tweener guys. You got guys coming in behind them, highly recruited. You got guys ahead of you. So to me, those are the guys that I'm kind of keeping an eye out on in that room. I think we will be okay. I don't think we got to go into the portal necessarily to get safeties as a result of what happens, but I do expect to see. I'll be surprised if we don't see some sort of attrition from this room.
Yeah, for sure.
Stay on the defensive side of the ball, and let's talk the star position. They need bodies there, and we know that Hugh Freeze and company will be looking to see who's in the portal. They're actively recruiting for that position. But do we expect to see anyone potentially leave? And I'm looking at Dylan Brooks particularly.
You mean the jack then?
The jack. Yeah, not the star, but the jack position.
Let me take a look at this jack position.
Yeah.
All right,
let's talk about the jack position.
Elijah McAllister, Keldrick Faulk, Brenton Williams, Hayden Bryce, Dylan Brooks.
Is Brenton Williams a kid from Opelika?
Yes.
Okay. Hometown kid. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's a true freshman. He's not going anywhere. Elijah McAllister just got here. He's not going anywhere. Keldrick Faulk just got here. He's not going anywhere. So you got Hayden Bryce and Dylan Brooks, really the only guys who could transfer out of that room.
I don't think anybody's going anywhere.
I seem to remember Bryce making a play on.
He got the sack on Holden Gardner on that that blitz. Well, it wasn't really a blitz, but he just did a little inside move and got up the field to get Gardner on the tackle. So he did get a tackle during A-Day. I don't know. I mean, there's only two guys who could possibly transfer out of this room. They're definitely going to go look for somebody else to bring into the room. So the question is whether or not Dylan Brooks or Hayden Bryce, who, he hasn't played very many actual snaps. Stuart Donald saying Brooks used his transfer. I don't think being released from your national letter of intent counts as a transfer. So he has not used his free transfer. So Brooks is free to transfer if he would like to. He seems the most likely candidate of guys who, I just don't know that Hayden Bryce gets a lot of attention in the portal. And if he enters the portal, he's going to have to take a big step down as far as what program he'd be going to. Right. Dylan Brooks is somebody who could still land at a Power 5 school if he decided to transfer. So he's the only guy in that room that I could even potentially see being a transfer.
Somebody will take a flyer on Dylan Brooks just because his measurables.
Yeah.
And where he was projected coming out of high school. They would take a chance on him.
Yeah, I agree. He's a talented kid, right? It's just, are they going to be able to get the most out of him? So, I agree with Dylan Brooks. I don't see anybody going anywhere here. I wouldn't be super worried if I was playing the Jack and you're looking at a real opportunity to play. So, if there is a transfer, I don't think it'll be a meaningful one.
What about defensive line? Now, there's a plan to play a lot of people. The plan is to play a lot of bodies here. So if you stay, you stand a chance to see the field. But what is the likelihood from this position group? I'm looking at guys. When I look along the defensive line, you got Aniche Sledge, Tebeki. Coley. Wilkie Denard just got there. Marcus Harris is good. Kite's good. Emba's good. Justin Rogers, Jason Jones.
Solid. They ain't going nowhere.
Zeke.
He already put his toe in the water once.
Yeah. D-line is one of those positions where, again, they're going to rotate a bunch of guys. So I don't know, man. I'm not super worried about any meaningful names transferring from this group.
I mean, what do you consider meaningful?
Right.
Emba, Jones, guys we know and expect to play
anywhere.
Yeah,
he ain't graduated.
The only two names that I will throw out there from the defensive line, and I said this one the other day when I think me and B Will were doing the morning drop. Aniche Sledge and unfortunately Jeffrey Emba would be if I were put anybody on, hey, they might be looking, those would be the two.
Okay.
Those would be the two. So I'm, hey, listen, don't be surprised. And if I would throw a third one out there, I did mention this earlier because he put his name out there once before, is Zacavius Walker potentially, right? I actually think Walker is probably a lot less likely now. The issue with Walker has been he's had a history of injuries, right? So he hasn't put a lot of tape out there. Sledge just was a guy who was highly recruited out of high school, just wants to see the field a lot. I don't know if he is into the whole rotational snaps thing, which any good program he would go to, he's going to get rotational snaps. Same thing for Jeffrey Emba. So those would be the guys, but I think that those two guys specifically may have been offended by bringing in a bunch of transfer guys as opposed to saying, hey, ride with the guys that we have in the room. And that, Justin Jones is going to, Jones is going to get snaps, right? Like you've heard, the only guy who's a transfer who I've not heard a lot about is the Lawrence Jackson kid that came in from,
Arkansas?
No, it wasn't. I forgot where he transferred in from. But anyway, he's the only guy who I haven't really heard a lot about in the rotation that came in. Nasili Kite has been getting a little bit of praise. Of course, we've heard about Rogers. Purdue, yes. Purdue is where he came from. So, we saw Wilkie Denard get some playing time out there at A-Day, make a play, So, if I were to just venture to say these are the guys who could garner interest out there in the transfer portal. Like there may be some other guys who don't get a lot of playing time, but where are they going to go? Like, and that sounds
Right.
terrible to say, but like they're not high profile enough to garner a bunch of inches. Maybe Okoli because he was a guy that had some good high school tape, but I don't see him being super coveted out there in the portal. It would be a Nietzsche Sledge and Jeffrey Emba to me would be the only two guys that I think could dip a toe in the transfer portal and actually get some bites back from teams where they'd want to go and play.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But I think Mba's locked in with Auburn. He seems to be very happy with the situation here. I know there was like some kerfuffle back when the team first
I
changed
like the
over.
word kerfuffle.
You're welcome. You're
It's a
welcome.
quality word.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He had a little he spoke up a little bit, seemed discontent, but I mean him and the staff worked that out. And without the season having been played, I don't think you work that out. You practice and go through spring and you don't see what you can do in the fall before reassessing. All right. Well, I don't know. What are y'all gonna do? Because one guy went to play me like this. Y'all gonna play me? Whatever the situation was, I don't even know exactly what it was. That's what I imagine most players' discontent is. It's either with playing time or NIL. It's one or the other. So I think it's fair to wonder if it's going to be a Nietzsche Sledge because, again, it seems like coach changeover is always going to leave somebody unhappy. It's always going to leave somebody unhappy. As much as Ike echoes this point a whole lot. But people are committing to the coaches and to the people that are there more than just the place. Auburn is the same school it was 6 months ago, except we opened a fantastic facility. We did. What was so different that Keldrick Falk didn't see before December when he flipped? Like, was it really that different? Zach Etheridge was still here telling you to come here. All our best recruiters were already here. And Zach Etheridge was working on everybody, not just the secondary players. What was so drastically different between when Harsin and company was pursuing you? We know Hugh Freeze was different. We absolutely know he's a different recruiter and a different presence than Harsin was. But the school was still the school. You knew the center was about to open. If you hadn't seen it, everybody was like, hey, wait till you see this. We're about to open this up. It's going to be crazy. You know, NIL, we about to get that going. He knew what was going to be on the table. And he said when he committed, I always wanted it to be Auburn. So what changed? The people changed.
Yeah.
Who was at the top of the ladder changed. And that makes a huge difference with these players, man. So if Nietzsche Sledge was really bought into who his position coach was, Brumbaugh, what the head coach had things working like, and I think we said this when Harsin got fired, he may not have been the recruiter and the head coach that Auburn needed, but there are people who go for that old school, by the grit of your teeth, football. Like these kids are coming from programs where the head coaches are like that in high school, man. It's not so foreign to every player. It might not be palatable to some players, and maybe some of the best players don't like that type of structure and that type of environment. But to some people, that's just football, how they know it, and they're used to it, and they go for it. And EJ Sledge seems to be willing to do I'll work however hard you want me to work. Put me on the field. And if he can't get a commitment that he's going to get on the field, he's not connected to these people like he was the other people. So it makes sense for him to see what else is out there for him. Yeah. And if he does that, I mean, I wish everybody who comes through Auburn the best. Really, I do. Because you chose Auburn, especially if you chose Auburn first. Like, I want them to get an opportunity to shine for choosing Auburn first. I always feel like that should be the reward for you saying, I got a few offers out here. I want to go to Auburn over whoever else. Put them on the field. Even if they end up not being as good as you thought, if they end up being terrible, put them on the field. Let's see. And if it's not that good, be like, all right, young man, we appreciate your time. Why don't you go ahead and step inside the portal?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, definitely wish them the best. I mean, they're dead to me, but I wish them the best.
Wow.
It's like, yeah, do a great job. I just don't ever do a great job if you happen to play us, right? So
that's fair. I don't see any linebackers. I looking at what we got at linebackers, I don't see I mean, I'm looking at Demario Tolan, Eugene Asante, Austin Keys, Cam Riley, Robert Woodyard, Powell Gordon, Wesley Steiner, Jake Levant.
They all here, man.
I ain't going nowhere.
No, I think we're
Yeah,
good.
I mean,
there.
I think Robert Woodyard has made enough strides in this offseason that,
Yep.
you know, but yeah, the only guy who I don't even know where he could go would be Wesley Steiner.
Not as
But
a
I don't know
senior.
that he has good enough tape out there to get
Stanford?
a lot of.
That's the one I'm
He's
at first.
definitely intelligent enough to be on a Stanford squad.
Yeah, he chose us over Stanford in his final recruiting stretch, so that's why.
Did he really? Okay. All right.
Yeah, so that's the only guy who I could potentially see transferring out of that room. And a lot of that would have to do with as they're doing these evaluations and they're saying, "Hey, Wesley, we need you to be a special teams guy," and he's like, "What? Okay, let me go see if I can go play linebacker somewhere."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't get over him not remembering Damari Alston's name in that interview. Which running back is the hardest to tackle?
One of those guys.
Oh, yeah,
What's his number?
yeah.
I know numbers. I
I
don't know
know
names.
the one in the blue jersey. He is a smart kid, despite how the interview came off. Like he is, really intelligent. He's picked up a lot. They said coaches have had a lot of high praise for Wesley Steiner. And
His physical traits are off the charts. He
they're
can move
right where they
fast.
need
He's
to
a
be.
big dude.
Yeah.
It's just
putting it together
Yeah.
in game and on the field has been a challenge. So
it would be
hoping that
fun to see a
change.
kid like him actually arise as, you know what I mean, like a star out of this defense. I would love to see a kid like Steiner just come out of nowhere. Nobody's really talking about you, and then you just kind of come in and just start wrecking stuff. However, they didn't wreck much on A-Day. Like again, that run defense was it was not good. The coaches say you're not left with a great feeling either way when one side dominates the other, especially in a scrimmage, which is why I think Hugh Freeze wants to just scrimmage somebody else, like anybody else. But like linebacker, I just can't see a lot of movement there, right? Especially when there's so much in flux. But the guys that I would just keep an eye on the guys that they brought in, you know what I mean, to be instant impact contributors in that room. They brought them in because that room needed a lot of help, and they just lost a lot of snaps and experience. With Papo going out the door. So it's going to take multiple guys, I think, to kind of fill that role. I mean, even though he wasn't really game busters, but like it's still experience that you're losing.
Yeah.
The only reason I can see that room staying solidified is more so because, again, it's more about what the prospects are for you elsewhere than it is about because listen, you're only going to play two guys, even if they rotate them 4, right?
Right.
You're looking at Demario Tolan, Austin Keys,
Cam
Riley, and
West
probably Robert
Woodyard.
Woodyard.
Mhm.
Right. And so anybody who's outside of those 4, and now I'm not even talking about the true freshmen that have come in who could potentially come in and have impact. Now, those guys will likely either redshirt or contribute to you on special teams in this first year. But if you are a guy like Wesley Steiner, where does that leave you? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. Eugene Asante. I didn't even mention Eugene Asante. You see what I'm saying? Like, if I were to list linebackers for Auburn University in order of that I think that they would see the field, Steiner's like 6th on that list.
Right. I think he's lower than Asante.
Yes.
Based on the game,
even based on what you saw last year, or
just based on what I've seen from his tape in North Carolina and what I know about his habits are in practice. Like I don't know. Wesley Steiner's probably way faster than him, but Asante's gonna be where he's supposed to be every time, and when he gets there, he's gonna make the tackle.
Yeah,
I feel that.
we will definitely see. Let's grab some comments, and we will discuss the offensive side of the ball when we come back from the break. But John Brannon shouting out Brian Hancher for gifting 5 memberships. Brian, we appreciate you for doing God's work out here. God bless you, sir. Brad Browning says, I don't think Puckett leaves. He'll get snaps at the Star, in my opinion. Possibility. Likely possibility. Auburn Dad for life. Glad to have you here, man. He says, I feel the D-line, wide receiver, and DBs are the ones getting hit the hardest. So we're going to talk about wide receiver too after the break for sure. Dallas Schwartz says, War Report, how deep do you feel the O-line room is right now? And if thin, how many could Coach Hugh Freeze seek via the portal? We'll answer that question after the break. So stay tuned, Dallas. Thank you for the question. I'm going to grab this one from you. We can't answer this right now. What's your feeling on when is Papo due to get called in the NFL draft? 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, or free agent? I have my Pats taking him in the 4th at 107 or 117th.
You know what's interesting is I kind of called it with that 40 time he went out and ran. And I mean, the NFL loves speed. They like speed if they don't like anything else. So, you know, all things else considered, I mean, this is tough. I just wonder if how much that 40 time elevated him. Like, I mean, because you're starting here at 3rd, but I'm just wondering if some team is not going to see all that speed and be like, you know, let's move him up a little bit more, right? Like, could he sneak into the 2nd round? What did he run? Like a 4-3 something?
4-3, yeah. He's like a
Like,
low 4-3. That's nuts for a linebacker.
I just didn't see that. I didn't see that coming. I thought he would be like a mid 4-4 guy, but a 4-3 anything, man, I don't know.
Did you watching them play this year? Did you think that Papo? I knew he could run fast, but did he play faster than Tank? Like that's crazy to me. That Tank ran like a 4.5.
Yeah, the Tank doesn't look like he has good top end speed. Tank is
so quick.
He's super quick and he is strong, but he's not fast. So yeah, Papo. Here's the thing. I almost think sometimes Papo's speed gets the best of him. Yeah. Right. Like he's moving so fast sometimes that he's not really processing stuff as quickly as his body can move. And so when he gets there, like, okay, think about the play with the big hit on Sean Clifford in the Penn State game. Right. He really almost ran over the play. Right. Like he was there before he couldn't even wrap up fast enough because he was already up on Clifford before his body even fully reacted to what was happening. So he just kind of ran over him.
Yeah. And that's why, Dallas, to your point, you said you think the Pats will take him. I don't think Bill Belichick takes anybody who isn't already great at processing. He will take a slow linebacker who's going to be there every time and make a tackle every time over a fast linebacker that has trouble wrapping up or identifying. Like that's just not Bill Belichick's MO. He builds his defenses out of FCS guys and unheralded guys and undrafted free agents, and then they're there for 5 years.
He smells like a Las Vegas Raider.
Yeah.
Y'all
remember that scene in Captain America where he first gets his Captain America powers and he's like outrunning cars, and then he like can't make the corner and like falls into a store because he's so fast. That's what Papo reminds me of. Yeah. Like just like he didn't know what to do with his speed just yet. Right. Yeah. So I mean, but again, the NFL loves speed, you know, and if he can hit and, you know, if you can be fast and, you know, gap sound, I don't know, man. I just need to see a 4.3 coming for him. Like I said, but I said this specifically what happened. He's going to go to the combine, run some ridiculous time, and then, you know, somebody's going to be like, oh, let's take a chance on this guy.
Yeah.
So kudos to him, man. Listen, 40 times, you know, which sometimes I feel like can be a little bit of an overrated.
Oh, it's 100%.
It is.
It has nothing to do with your ability to actually play football. Like,
but
if you
he
want to run track,
benefited.
fine.
He benefited greatly from a good showing at the like this is why you should have a good showing at the combine. Like Papo is a reason why. Exhibit A.
It's also why guys will skip drills they don't think they're going to do good at.
Yeah,
right.
Because people will remember that as well. So, you know, he had a good. What was his like? He didn't do. I don't think he did the 225 at Pro Day.
Who, Papo?
Yeah, I think he.
No, he did.
Did he?
He killed it. Yeah, it was 20s.
Yeah, I think he definitely benched too. Like, listen, he
killed both of them.
His broad jump, his vertical leap, every physical thing that you could do at the combine, Owen Papo put up stupid numbers in.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about Pro Day. Sorry, I said.
Oh yeah, I don't know if he did
at Pro Day. I think he skipped the 225 at Pro Day. Yeah.
Yeah, he already did it at the combine. He's like, man, I already saw me do this. Yeah. I need to take my creatine before this.
So
Buddy.
so we'll get back to discussing the transfer portal and the offensive side of the ball when we come back from the break. But guys, you're watching the Midweek Rapport. Share this video. Definitely smash that like button. Help us with the YouTube algorithm and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Let's take some time to acknowledge our show sponsors.
This edition of the War Report is made possible by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn Sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. Athletic Architects. For young athletes looking to secure their financial future, let Athletic Architects help you to build your financial house. Head over to BuildTheHouse.com. And our giveaway sponsor, War Eagle Oil. War Eagle Oil is your #1 place for all of your motor oil and related products. For more information, visit WarEagleOil.com.
As always, thank you to the sponsors of the War Report, and thank you to the War Report members who continue to come on and show love. Green Name Game is always strong on Wednesday night. We appreciate you guys. If you want to be a part of that and get a green name in the chat, it's real easy. You just become a member. Click that join button, and you can also become a member. Once again, thank you to Brian Hancher for gifting more memberships today. We appreciate the gifted memberships. If you are a member right now from the live chat and you want to gift a membership, you can do that. You should be able to do it from your mobile device, but I don't know if Apple is letting people do that because there's that extra thing that they put on top of the fee for their stuff, and Apple's just weird. So, all of you Apple users,
Don't do
boo
that.
for you. But whatever, we appreciate you guys for having memberships. But at any rate, you can gift a membership right now in the live chat to somebody else and let them get the first month on you. We do giveaways all of these shows, and we're doing another one today. Hashtag get your weight up in the live chat to become eligible to get this. We'll do the drawing right around the 1 hour mark. That's sponsored by War Eagle Oil today. WarEagleOil.com is where you head for your motor related products. Make sure you head over there and check them out. And keep checking us out on the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. We want to continue to climb these charts. Jazzy Joe just gifted some more memberships. We appreciate you for doing that, Jazzy, man. Appreciate you very much, as always, for supporting the War Report. But the Auburn Express is where you can find us on Pod, powered by the War Report. Make sure you check us out for some of that audio-only content. Doing it the only way we know how to do, man.
Grab one more comment. Philip Coleman says, my list of a few guys to leave, in my opinion, is Gardner Langlow, Dylan Brooks,
Jack,
Caden Bridges,
safety,
Malcolm Johnson Jr.,
receiver.
You okay?
Mike, I said
okay?
that Mike just passed out.
Jesus, take me now.
That's how you pass out to the side like that.
Bring the cloth and come cover him up.
Yeah. Oh man, and then to Becky, Kokoli. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I can see a strong 3 of these guys on your list. So
I saw Langlow getting some snaps in the A-Day.
He definitely played during A-Day. Yeah.
What's his what position was he lined up at? Do you remember?
Tackle, I think.
Yeah, but see, guard or tackle. I still have not gotten. It's hard to look at numbers during this A-Day film to see who it is on the field. So.
Yeah. But I just remember Hugh Freeze, and we can go ahead and talk about O-line, because Hugh Freeze talked about, being pleased with what he was seeing with the front 5, but lamenting that they need depth with O-line. To me, that just says, hey, once you get past the starters, it's really iffy in terms of what he has. Although we saw the second team O-line look pretty decent when they got on the field during A-Day. So I don't know what to make of that. Guys, I know, Ike, you mentioned a few names that you was curious about, one of them being Jalil Irvin. Could we potentially see a departure from the O-line?
I mean, listen, here's my thing. And I said this on the morning drop, if you guys didn't hear it, when I was talking to B. Will about the effusive praise that Coach Hugh Freeze has for newcomers, right? And then the insistence that he has on mentioning we're basically open for business, looking for more talent to come in because we're not talented enough in these rooms, right? To me, I don't want to use the word disrespectful, but if you are a guy that's in that room and you're not one of the top 5 on the offensive line, you're basically saying to me, I'm not good enough. Now you can think, and people are always like, well, if they don't want to compete, then let them go on somewhere else. Let me pose this question to you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, let me not pose this question. Let me talk about me.
Okay.
And the job where I just left before I decided to do you guys know why I quit my job. When I quit it, I was always planning to leave. You know why I quit when I quit?
Why is that?
Because when I was working my butt off at this job, one of my bosses had the audacity to say, I don't think Isaac works hard enough. And I was like, you being for real? Oh, okay. Well, you can have this job then, bro. Since I don't do it well enough, find somebody who does.
Yep.
Well,
It's a very simple solution. You don't like how I do the job, go find somebody else to do it.
You had me at one of your bosses. Any job where you have more than one boss sucks.
Yeah, right.
Specific. I could go there, but when you get to a point where you feel like you're doing all you can and the only response you're getting back is that's not good enough, that's not about me not wanting to compete. That's about me feeling disrespected. I'll just go somewhere where they value my contributions. That's really easy.
Yep.
And sometimes it's not about whether or not you're talented enough. It's not sometimes about whether or not you want to compete. It's about nobody's willing to recognize how hard I'm working. That's fine. You don't recognize it, somebody else will.
Yeah.
And some people might be in that scenario because, again, I remind people this offensive line isn't as bad as we thought it was when we looked at the last 4 games of the season.
Correct.
Same dudes, just in a different system, coached by different people, played better. So maybe they're not as lacking in talent as we thought.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they are working their butt off. Maybe nobody's recognizing that work and they're like, cool, I know what I could do. I can go somewhere else.
Well, to that point, of not being recognized and not really being, I'd say, properly motivated to stick around. Because I think at this point, so much is up in the air at so many of these positions. You need something pretty solid. Like you need a vote of confidence from the coach. You need some significant production on the field. And when I say production, I mean, are you out there with the groups that you think are going to be the starting groups when it comes to the scrimmages this spring, or when it came to the A-Day game? Who are your position coaches talking about? Are they talking about you? Because, I mean, I can't tell you that doesn't mean anything. It absolutely does. That viewing period told us very little. We saw it. It did very little.
Yeah, they can do drills.
Yeah, I know, right? Look, nobody guarding you. You can catch that ball. All right, you're great. But really, man, the coaches are, when they're asking them, when they're trying to install these things, and they're really doing the nitty-gritty of technique and fundamentals. If you have a guy who just doesn't have the endurance to drive and stay low while he drives from the defensive line, that's how you end up lunch meat in the run game. Are you low and powerful? Like sometimes it could absolutely be a thing where you don't have the physical tools because you're not a freak. And I think something that Hugh Freeze wants, he wants dudes that are outrageously good and athletic. Like Hugh Freeze was trying to really recruit above Ole Miss's station when he was there. And he had to super cheat to do it. Super cheat. I'm not even talking about the stuff that was substantiated with old players and country. Like if you went by some of the alleged stuff, it was like you trying to give who what money to come to Ole Miss? It's kind of like what they're doing with Lane Kiffin now. Y'all can't sustain this. You can pay Lane Kiffin all that money, but y'all can't get no good players. You can't do both because you're Ole Miss. He knew how much of a priority talent would be. We've seen that since he's gotten here. And so when I hear him talk about depth and how we're open for business, all I keep thinking is he wants a roster littered with high 4- or 5-star talent. That's what he wants.
Yeah,
he wants.
Every coach wants those.
Every coach does, but that's not what he has right now. So when he's talking about what's in these rooms and what needs to take place in the offseason, the transfer portal, I think it's more of a, hey man, I'm glad you're here. No, not you. I'm not talking to you. You got that 5-star. You're looking real good at these camps I've been watching. I want you to come on
I'll
in.
tell you what, man. For a guy who needs to win, though, I don't super like this message. I think that since he's been here, there's been a lot of, the guys I have aren't good enough, subliminal type stuff.
Yeah. Right.
And that was my whole
That's
point.
it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't really like that, man. I think, you're going to have to win with some of these guys, so they need to start to hear that they are good enough and that they can succeed. And after A-Day, I was refreshing to hear him say, listen, we're going to look at anybody who can help us in the portal. That includes QB, but I think we can win games with the guys we have.
Correct.
Thank you. Been waiting to hear that all spring. Right? Because the message hasn't been super. I mean, at the end of the day, if I had any critique of this coach, he needs to work on his messaging, particularly in the media. So maybe it sounds different behind closed doors, but hey guys, we want you to show up to A-Day, but you ain't gonna see nothing. I know it's gonna be raining and Easter's the next day, and I'm probably gonna be gone as soon as it's over too. But hey, come out. Like, wait, what? Worst pitch ever. There's this thing going on here where he means well, but the message comes out in a certain way. And if I'm a player and I'm constantly like, listen, I had stopped I had tried to stop asking questions to Q Freeze about portal QBs and stick more to how are the guys that you have progressing? How are they doing?
Right.
Because those guys right now they may be coming to portal. They're hypothetical. They're mythical right now.
Right.
But there are real guys in this room that we want to hear about. Yeah. And those guys want to hear about themselves too. So, it was, again, I think the messaging can use some work. I just think the messaging can use some work as it pertains to your current team. And then we started to hear things like Jarquez Hunter is the best back I've ever coached. Even though I haven't coached him down yet, I recognize how talented he is. Great. He started to talk about guys like Connor Lew. Right? Damari, I underestimated him.
Yeah.
Coming in. He's really good. Thank you. Those guys need to hear that. Because if I'm Damari and I'm sitting back here with a freebie, now listen, I get it. Jarquez is good, but just the way Jarquez was behind Tank, and he wasn't willing to just accept the Tank's here, so I'm not going to play. Damari's probably got the same attitude, if not more so.
Especially when you actually are good, right? Like it's not like I'm overconfident in my ability. Like he could actually ball. So what are we talking about?
And you want to hear your coach acknowledge and recognize that.
That's true. But I mean, let me ask this question like Anthony Grant is asking this question. What happened to it? Get deleted?
No, I got it.
Okay. What if the guys we have reached the ceilings? And I think
that's you're not evaluating that in one spring, though.
No. I'm not saying you evaluate in one spring. What I'm telling you is that we talk about this frequently. What does recruiting mean when it comes to ratings, right? We were subpar in offensive line recruiting just by sheer numbers. Like we weren't getting enough high school talent in this room at the most important position on the line, left tackle, and we didn't really get a true right tackle either. So when we got guys and we're shifting guys, you got guards playing tackle. It's always stuck out to me when Caddy took over. He said, "We're going to build these guys up." One of the things that created the shift when Caddy took over wasn't that the roster changed. It's that we are going to build these guys up. He was very intentional and specific about that. He thought that not enough had been put into them. They had not been built up as individuals and as players here. And that was important to him. I understand what you are saying, why Hugh Freeze needs to do some of that. But I also remember Caddy saying, what we lack in talent, we will make up for in effort. I distinctly remember that line because I was going to the pressers thing, which was an acknowledgement that several positions lacked special talent. Now, I don't think Hugh Freeze can accurately assess who is that guy and not that guy in one spring, but I do think some of it is plain to the naked eye And that's why you don't hear him effusive in his praise of every guy, because I think it would be overboard to be effusive in your praise. Oh, man, these guys are working so hard, which is something that coaches say, and I agree, they probably are, but we know it, and it's not our job to do it. But these coaches have to go to guys who have come to practice, go to class, do what they're asked to do. They don't get in trouble. They're out here working and putting themselves through all these changes. A new coach, another new coach since I got here in 2020. Okay. And all of a sudden these guys are like, hey, man, you're just not really as talented as I want on my team. You got to go. Now, they get paid plenty of money to make those decisions and have those conversations. I'm so glad I don't have to do it, because I might not have the heart to tell a guy who has gone through all that, hey, you're not good enough, you got to go. I understand why he can't do the extremes of both, which is build everybody up and tell them how good they are. Because Harsin, I think Jazzy said this, Harsin was kind of like that with the offensive line, right? Nah, you know what? These guys, we're going to get it, and we're going to get... No, it didn't work. You didn't get anybody because you wanted to believe in these guys, and it all fell apart.
Yeah,
so that's one extreme.
Here's the difference for me, right? And there definitely is a balance, but here's the difference for me is that I know, and Hugh Freeze has admitted that much, he's not really in the rooms with those guys, right?
Yeah,
right.
So if the only time you really hear your coach talk about your talent evaluation is in a press conference where he says, I don't know that this room is good enough.
Portal. Right. Yeah.
Again, I'm going to go back to my situation. My boss never came to me and said that, but it was said and I heard it. And I was like, what? This is where we go. This is what we're doing today. Yeah. When I'll never miss those marks. All the stuff you're asking me to do, I'm doing it. But the only time I ever hear from you about my work, you're saying it ain't good enough. Cool, I got you.
Right. Yeah. I just think it's...
But again, that to me, that I'm not talking about nobody else. If this were Isaac on that football team, I'd be looking sideways at the coach like, what? All right, fine.
Yeah, I just think it's one thing to be to not be effusive in your praise of everybody, but then again to completely do the opposite in acting like or suggesting that you got a bunch of guys who are not good enough. Right. And, I mean, waiting all spring to acknowledge Damari Alston, man, like kind of just, I don't know, man, it hit me wrong. Because we when you don't hear a guy's name that we know is good, you start to wonder.
Right.
Is something happening? Damari Alston is good because he didn't really play last year.
That's kind of, how does he know? Well, again, that is kind of my point. That is the job during the spring. That's kind of what Ike is saying, right? You haven't sat down and talked with him, right? So, like, if a player like Damari is leaving the spring not knowing where he stands, that's a problem,
right?
That would spur me towards the portal, especially if I'm sitting out here with a freebie. Because you know what these kids don't want to do is they want to waste a year where they're going to get jumped. Like, okay, so I mean, and we talked a lot about running back, but I do kind of want to move to the quarterback room. You know what's interesting about programs like Bama getting 5-star talent at QB is that it hasn't really been a question who the next man up is going to be there for a while. They recruit 5-star talent, and the next dude just kind of steps in, but it's pretty known at the end of the previous season who the next guy is going to be.
Right. This is probably their first year where they've got a true competition.
I don't know, man. Milroe looks, I think it's going to be Milroe. I think he's going to get the first shot. I don't know how he's going to do. I just know they have a history of, this is the next dude up. When they, Bryce Young waited his turn. But best believe he knew his turn was coming.
For sure.
Right? They evaluated in a way that, he clearly had the feedback. He wasn't going nowhere. And I think that's what they have to start here at Auburn. You need to develop talent, and you're starting out, to B's point, you want to bring in those 4 or 5-star guys. But you're building a program with the guys you have, and you're not going to bring enough portal guys in to be able to see everybody who was here last year. You're not. Right. You won't even win a game like that. So you're going to have to get the most out of these guys. And I just think, man, they can't be overlooked. He doesn't have to sunshine pump it, though. Right? Get to know this. I mean, if anything, between now and fall camp, Hugh Freeze needs to be getting to know this team. I keep asking the question. I don't know if you guys listen to these presses, but I keep asking the question, hey, like, how are these guys getting feedback in real time? Have you had any one-on-ones and sit-downs? Now, we know Harsin did it. I mean, he talked about what a long, 2 weeks it was going to be, doing these one-on-ones with the players and their position coaches.
Yeah.
It's tedious work. Now, you've spent the time recruiting outside the program. Spend some time recruiting inside your program.
And the question is valid as to whether or not the position coaches are doing that kind of stuff and what kind of reports they're getting back from those guys about where their rooms sit. And maybe they have said, hey, man, I'm not going to lie to you, coach. Our room right now ain't looking too good. Maybe they have. And that's what he's going out and he's parroting that, like, hey, from what I'm hearing, we're kind of shaky in this room. We're kind of shaky in this room. When it gets into the scrimmage, we don't have a guy like this, and that. And that's fine. I think sometimes, though, it can be a little overboard when, again, that's the only time I hear from you is the criticism or the open public criticism of the talent in my room, which that means you're talking about me, too. When you say my room, you that's me. I'm in the same room.
I think it was very important for Robbie Ashford's mental space to hear his coach say he's made progress. He's gotten better, and he's been fun to coach.
Yeah.
Right now, he gave him he was critical of him in a way to saying, I don't think anybody's ever challenged him the way I've challenged him this spring. Right. But when you couple that with the previous statement, it all comes out positive.
Right.
Right.
And that's what I think. I think that you can accomplish both. The messaging needs balance. And, I mean, I can't stress how important Ike's point is that if I don't hear nothing, and then the first time I turn on YouTube, the first thing I hear about how I played or where I stand or what we're doing in terms of bringing guys in at my position is then, man, I don't know. I got problems with that.
And
I really do.
And when we're going to transition here in a minute, I know we got some more stuff that we have to talk about. It's weird, too, that there's this assumption by a lot of fans that what we're going to bring into the transfer portal is automatically going to upgrade us.
Right.
Like, I just don't understand. It's very weird to me because we're like, well, we need to process these guys out. Like, there's just a bunch of talented dudes sitting out there waiting for Auburn to call them. Right. That's not how the transfer portal works.
Yeah, man. The second portal period, I'm telling you, it's third string dodgeball in PE, right? It's the kids. Like, some of these kids, I mean,
that's harsher than anything Hugh Freeze said.
I'm just saying, it's not like a bunch of diamonds out there outside the conference that you could bring in the second portal period unless you're getting a guy who legit is talented and thought he was going to have a chance to win the job in a crowded QB room. I'm talking about that room that Joe Burrow was in, or Justin Fields, or maybe what they got at Texas right now, right? Or Georgia.
And
right?
How many of those guys do you think exist out there? That's what's I just don't understand, man. Like, I don't understand like people's mentality towards the transfer portal. They assume, oh, there's just so many. We just pick up somebody else. Then it's like, bro, like y'all you really think that y'all like the thrift store kings out here? Like, you're gonna find all the gems out there. It's like, man,
is that attitude Gus's fault?
But I mean, still,
go ahead.
Like, a lot of that recruiting that Gus was doing was JUCO guys.
That's what I'm saying.
It's the off-season period is where you make your big upgrades. This portal period is it's filler guys for the most part. You're not going to get starters in this portal period.
Yeah.
You can. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying that it is impossible that you can find a difference maker for your team during this port. I'm saying it's improbable. And this thought process that, well, we got to get rid of some guys so we can bring in some guys who really want to compete. You don't think those guys want to compete?
Yeah.
That's silly. Let's stop. Like, come on, man. Those young men want to compete. They want to get playing time, though.
Right.
They want to go somewhere where they're going to play. It's not about wanting to compete. You have a finite window to put actual film on tape for NFL scouts to look at. And every year you don't do that, you waste eligibility and you ruin another opportunity for yourself to make it to the next level.
Yeah. What'll be interesting is to this point about, like, the message in recruiting: come here, you can play immediately. We need help. We got spots, right? But then as it pertains to the young guys, and this is why I really wanted to see Holden Geriner get meaningful snaps this fall. First of all, I think this young man could be the future of Auburn football, right? I think he's that talented. I think his arm is that talented. Secondly, for the younger guys, you want other recruits, I think, to see those guys getting winning jobs, right? Because here's what you don't want to see. The precedent you don't want to set is we're going to recruit a 4-star QB or 5-star QB, and he's potentially going to get jumped by some portal guy that's going to come in every portal season. Now, that's a reality I think that players have to deal with now,
especially if you play at Ole Miss.
Right. You're gonna have to compete against those portal guys. But for the most part, I'm not sure championship teams are being built through the portal right now. I think it's still recruiting, and you got to have a base of guys that you recruit that are your guys that come out of high school. You develop them. Hint, hint, QB developer. And then when it's time, you've got that pipeline of guys that you started where we're not waiting on a freshman to come save the program unless he's really that talented. It took Tua like a whole season to get the job wrestled away from Jalen Hurts. And they really liked him, and it was still a struggle. Both those guys are starting on NFL teams right now.
Yeah.
But even at these other programs, like I'm telling you, if you're a true freshman and you're super talented, the process should be so good that even those kids can't jump in and overcome it, because that's how well you're developing the talent that you have.
Yeah, but I want to throw this to that and then talk about the offensive line just a little bit before we hit the break. You can say, I brought you in and I'm going to put you through whatever my process is. I think we can agree that the prospects for offense look better now than they did under Brian Harsin.
Okay.
And based on how the Gus era ended, better than it did under Gus Malzahn as well. So you would expect that after a couple of years of getting in the guys that Hugh Freeze has recruited and that he thinks can be good, that he's scouted, that he's evaluated and talked to in relationship, and they're his ideal locker room guy and all that. Well, now you should have some coherence to what you're talking about, Mike, which is you're the guy. Next guy's going to wait, and he's going to have to wait. And all that's going to happen, sure. You can still miss, though. And that's what I don't ever want to lose out of our minds. Like, we were excited about Dylan Brooks being a 5-star talent. Tennessee was after him. Jeremy Pruitt, he signed there, excuse me. Jeremy Pruitt's a great defensive mind and defensive coach. The culture might have been trash, but he knows talent. He knows players, and he knows defense. We were excited. Did all the evaluators miss on Dylan Brooks' evaluation? Because he's gotten here, and even after the coaching change, he saw the field, and he played better than we had never seen him. But now he can't. We haven't seen him. We haven't heard about him. And now you got to wonder, well, is Dylan Brooks not turning into a star player an indictment on 2 coaching staffs, or do sometimes players end up being a miss?
Or did the first one ruin him, and then he's got a bunch of ground to make up because of how he got ruined? I mean, just because you bring a coaching staff in, does it not mean?
I can't do that. I don't think a year and a half can ruin a player unless you out there as a quarterback getting lit up every time you get the ball snapped at you.
Listen, man, I don't know. I just think when it comes to it, particularly at certain positions, the bottom line is you need to hit more than you miss.
Sure, but
sure you can miss.
He's not going to miss on these players. And what I'm talking about is, how can he miss on players he didn't recruit? Hugh Freeze can't miss on players he didn't recruit. He inherited these players.
Yeah, he did. But if you're going to go the process of looking in the transfer portal for a player to evaluate, to bring in, you should be able to do that with your own roster.
With your own team, right? That's what I'm talking about. The recruiting within the program. Right?
I don't disagree with that.
Because there's talent here. This is not a team devoid of talent. Find the guys, identify the right guys, get the right guys on the field, develop the guys that can be developed, and then field a competent team.
I agree with that. I agree with that, just considering a year ago we were still top 15 blue chip ratio. Like, there's talent here to work with. So I
don't care if they're his guys or not. They're talents. They got talent.
Did you have a point to make about the O-line, B?
Oh, yeah. Just so O-line, we're talking depth and stuff, right? We got a lot of interior offensive linemen. I don't know if we have another true left tackle behind Dylan Wade. like that. So it was kind of crazy when he's talking about bodies. When we're talking about, yeah, we need to go get a couple more offense. I was like, how? And then I'm looking at, oh yeah, well, we got a lot of guards,
Yeah,
a couple centers. We do not have. I don't know if we have tackles really besides Wade and Britton. Like
true tackles.
Yeah, like true tackles. I don't know if we have any. So if they did go for tackles, it makes sense to hit the portal for that, because I don't think we have many of those. Even who's coming in, Miller, and do we have another one coming in that isn't here yet?
Isn't Kobe Smith a tackle? He has the height for it. He's like 6'8".
I don't know. But yeah, I think Miller might be the only other tackle that is slated to get here later on.
Yeah. So we're thin at we're not thin at line. We're thin at tackles, both. So I see why he's gonna go and look for somebody's there. But any other position, I don't know, man. I'm up and down about wide receiver. Like I believe in the guys that we have because of what I know about them, what I've heard about them. But he still doesn't sound sold on the wide receivers like that. That's the one that bothers me. That's the position
for Coach Hugh Freeze. There's a couple of things for wide receiver, and I know we got to get to the break. There's a couple of things. It's speed, right? Like we don't have a bunch of top end speed guys, right? Like outside of Javarius Johnson and Jay Fair, most of those guys aren't burners. Camden Brown, not a burner. Landon King, not a burner. Nick Martin, not a burner. Malcolm Johnson has the speed, but like he doesn't really have separation speed. He's more of like a straight line kind of track guy. Yeah. So when he says that, I think that you're talking about speed, number one, because he wants guys that can get separation to be able to take the top off of defenses. But then the other portion of that is when you talk about big body receivers, you really are only looking at Camden Brown, Amari Kelly, maybe. Coy Moore is kind of a possession type guy, but not really a big body guy. And then you've got Nick Martner, who, listen, I hate disparaging guys that are on our roster, but if Nick Martner was that dude, why wasn't he showing out at Hawaii?
Right.
Why wasn't he showing out at, what was it, Georgia State? Cincinnati, excuse me, Cincinnati. Why? You should see electric tape out of him playing against lesser competition, and you don't see that. You see a really tall guy who made a couple of catches over short dudes. Like I promise you, I've gone and looked for the tape. It doesn't exist. And so maybe somebody's mismanaged him, or maybe, as you said a little bit ago, B, they've misevaluated him all these years. He's got the look of a guy, but that doesn't mean he's the guy.
Right.
And so you get those guys and you evaluate them and you say, yeah, we still need, in order for me to cycle through 8 receivers like I want to, because I want to play 3 and 4 receiver packages a lot and go fast, I need 8 guys plus another 2 in case there's injuries that I can count on. Do I have 8 guys right now? The answer to that question is, unfortunately, no.
8 guys. Oof.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. So we'll keep an eye on that room as well. Let's grab some comments before we get to the drawing so we can transition from here. Eric Pearson says, what's the word on the QB from Old Dominion? He hit the transfer portal this week. I know he played in 2 national championship games in his division. Don't know.
I haven't heard of our staff reaching out to him. He definitely did hit the portal. I ain't gonna lie, he threw a lot of picks when I looked at his at his stats. His touchdown to interception ratio isn't great. So he looks tough. He looks like he ran a system. I did look at a little of his tape. He ran a system that can be analogous to what Coach Hugh Freeze wants to do. He's got the game snaps and experience. I just don't know how well he takes care of the football. And I haven't watched enough of his film to say, oh, well, this was like bad offensive line play. This was a lot of tip passes. It's, you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of circumstances that lead to interceptions, but he threw a grip up.
Gracie Skywalker says, what's up, War Report family? Holden and TJ is gone. We will get 2 QBs in the portal. Ty Simpson will transfer to Auburn. Let's hope, because Milroe has 2 years left.
I don't know about Holden and TJ.
I don't think both of them will leave. Right. And there is no scenario in which we can get I've said this many times, an SEC player that will be here and play in the fall. The SEC transfer window has closed. If you're going to do interconference transfer, you had to be in the portal before, I think, February 15th or something like that.
Yeah, it's like late January, I think.
So it's done there. So like any scenario that you have in your mind as fans that includes an SEC player, that does not help you for this fall.
Yeah, I think Holden's staying. I'm sorry, I don't see him realistically going this season. But you know, he will have some decisions to make, I think, depending on what they do in the portal. I don't know if he technically took a red shirt last year. Did he participate in more than 4 games?
Yeah, no,
he's
he
listed
the
as
only
a
games.
freshman.
Yeah, the only games that he got work in was Missouri, and actually, I don't even know if he played in any other game besides Missouri.
Yeah, so
he's a red shirt. He's a red shirt.
So he really has got 4 more years left to play, and a freebie transfer. So he can still, I think, afford to ride out one more season, and then if it's not looking like he's next up, bounce. Yeah. Right. So I don't think it's holding. You know, TJ was asked straight up, if they bring in a portal QB, are you gonna stay? And he was like, I don't know. So
which is an answer.
Yeah, it's an answer in of itself. Remember when Bo was asked?
That's exactly what I was about to say. You guys, I said this then, and people thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
If you want to kill the rumors, there's a really easy way.
Easy way to do that, right?
Just say, nope, I'm staying.
Remember when Bo was asked?
Leaving the door open.
Certain dum-dum went out and was like, he's coming back. And we was like, we didn't say that. Quite the opposite. Right? So, I mean, I just, again, if TJ wanted to squash that, he could have. But listen, I don't fault him for that either, though. Like, I just think it was pretty clear. I mean, I wouldn't verbally commit to this situation right now if I were in his shoes.
Right. Not mad at him for not.
Yeah, I'm not mad at him for this, right? So that I'm clear. I just think, he's got a freebie transfer, and he's got 1 year left to play, man. So if he feels like he's not going to be the guy, get on out of here. Go play somewhere.
Yeah,
he can't afford. I mean, it's just his last year to play college football.
Agreed. Well, it's time to give away something. What are we giving away, gentlemen?
The mug.
Giving away a mug. Courtesy of War Eagle Oil. # get your weight up in the comments. Ike is here, y'all. So, y'all already know what it is. If you ain't put it in there already, too late.
It's time to go. 68 people enter. One person can win. Who is it going to be today? War Report mug sponsored by War Eagle Oil is going to Damian Smith.
Damian, are you here?
Are you here?
You gotta let us know.
Let's see if I see
if you're here.
Let
us know.
The last 5 minutes, though.
I'm gonna grab a comment here by John Brandon. He says Flanagan was taken off of the website roster, but reappeared on there today.
Mm-hmm. That is an actual thing.
They be doing stupid stuff.
I checked it earlier today, made a whole graphic, posted it up, and was like, hey, here's the guys who are still on the roster. And then like an hour later, his name popped up on there. I was like, I'm not changing this graphic until he again, the same thing I would say about TJ. If Flanagan was coming back to Auburn, there's one really easy way to kill all the rumors that he was transferring or going pro.
Yeah. I don't think he's transferring, though. I think it's more of just, am I going pro? Deal.
But again, there's one easy way to say I'm going to enter my name into the NBA draft, but I'm going to keep my eligibility open. Simple.
What's the deadline for him?
I don't know when the deadline to declare is.
He got time around, doesn't
he? But again, super easy way to kill all the rumors is just to come out and say it's either coming back to Auburn or going pro, guys.
Must file separate paperwork to declare for the NBA draft. Per NBA rules, the deadline to apply for undergraduate advisory committee is April 13th.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Midnight.
So we'll know tomorrow whether or not it was the NBA or Auburn.
Right. Or transfer.
Right. Well, I mean, he doesn't have to declare he's transferring yet, but I'm just saying, though, if he doesn't enter his name in the draft, then there's only 2 options left. He's either coming back or he's going. I mean, he could go play overseas somewhere. He could just not come back. And you don't have to be in the NBA draft to go play overseas. But I'm saying if he wants to enter and declare for the draft, tomorrow is the last day to do that. So if his
Oh,
name don't pop
wait,
up by
time
midnight
out.
tomorrow,
Now another site is saying it's the 23rd. The NBA early entry deadline is the 23rd.
that's early entry deadline. That's not even the final deadline. Then.
Right, yeah. It's April 23rd, 2023 at midnight.
All right.
They must have misprinted when they said the 13th.
Oh,
Damian
Damian
Smith
says he already has a mug though.
So Ike,
He
run
said
it
run
back.
again.
Hold on, let me bring
Run it
bring
back. Just in case you was wondering, guys. Oh, he don't care. All right,
No,
go ahead and
I
run
don't. I don't.
Who it's going to be? Going to be Ernest Vaughn.
Vaughn.
Ernest
I've seen you
Vaughn. I feel
commenting,
like-
Ernest. Are
Where
you still
at,
here,
Ernest?
though?
Where
Let us
you at,
know.
Ernest?
Let us know. All right. Let's talk. We're still talking about the portal, but we're switching sports. Talking basketball. There's 3 guys that Auburn has contacted who are still
More
in
than
the
3,
portal.
but the 3 that
More
I
than
think
3.
are probably highest on the list right now.
Shooting guard Cario Oquindo. Did I say that right, Ike?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Okay, Ernest just put get your weight up.
So he's here. He just
he's
hasn't
here.
said he won
He's
yet.
probably just behind.
Yeah.
So what we need you to do once you catch up to us, Ernest, is email us
Claim your
business at the
prize.
War Rapport,
There it is. He
the
just
physical
saw it.
address. Do that and congrats, sir. All right.
Yes, yeah.
Cario Oquindo, who's a Georgia transfer. The schools he's considering is, of course, Auburn, Utah, Oregon, and Nebraska. This guy averaged 12.7 points per game, 2.6 rebounds per game, was shooting a little under 40%, coming in at 39% from the field. He's one of the guys who Auburn is considering. The second guy who's also a shooting guard is Quincy Olivari from Rice. He's also considering Auburn, but is considering Texas, Miami, and Xavier. So some stiff competition there for this guy. He's 6'3", 200 pounds. This guy gets buckets. He's averaging 18.7 points per game last year, almost 6 rebounds, 2 assists per game, shooting 41% from the field. Also, one of the guys Ike's feeling good about is Brandon Lieb, who's of Illinois. He's 7 foot, 220 pounds. Not a lot of stats on him. I don't know if he played much, but he hasn't narrowed down his list much. But Ike, what's your thoughts on these guys as it pertains to Auburn's needs in the transfer portal? Obviously, we're going after a center and wanting to move what's his face to the 4. Janai Broom to the 4.
They could keep him at the 4, get another 4. I just think that they need another big man in the rotation. My thoughts are, as much as people feel like Auburn needed more shooting, needed more scoring last year, I think where we really were hurting was in our ability to rebound consistently and defend the rim. If we had been able to do those things better, I think the need for, because at the end of the year, like I think people's I talk about like trending directions. At the end of the year, people forget Auburn was scoring 70 plus points per game towards the end of the year. It wasn't our ability to score that was the biggest problem. It was our ability to get stops. And as teams were bigger that we were playing against, it was getting rebounds. So I think that our rotation in the middle was a problem. The games where we didn't have Dylan Cardwell to go to, we ended up having to go to an undersized Johan Traore down low who wasn't really a rebounding presence. Super athletic, but just not big enough to be able to do that. Not a rim protector, none of those things. We literally, in the overtime game against Bama, once Dylan Cardwell got hurt, are playing Chris Moore and Leor Berman at our 4 and 5. Right. And so that spoke to a little bit to me, a lack of confidence and stretch, because I don't know why he wouldn't get those minutes in that scenario, or them trying to preserve his red shirt. But I think we need more depth in the front court for Auburn to be able to, because I think we have scores now, right? Like you could always use more scores. I'm not saying that but you got to think about minutes distribution, and you got to think about you're bringing guys in from the transfer portal. They're going to want to play. So when you talk about guards now, you've got 4 quality guards on this team. You're going to need another forward or a guy who can play shooting guard / point. It's not point guard, shooting guard / small forward. So he's going to need to be 6'5", 6'6", right, in that range to really be good. You could go 6'4", maybe on the low end, and play like a small guard lineup. but you are going to need some size, and your front court right now consists of, when I'm talking about power forward, center, Janai Broome and Jalen Williams if he returns, and Dylan Cardwell. That's it. And
Yeah.
a 3-person rotation in a position where you're going to get a lot of fouls because you're going to be in the trenches, you're going to be trying to block shots, not going to get it done. So I think we need to go get another power forward / center for sure, to at least get 4 guys through that rotation. And then if you need to go small, you still have a SEMO that you could bump down there. You can put Jalen at the 5, that kind of stuff. And then
Now,
I
you
think we
looking
need
for a
another.
guy who kind of like really is a rim protector, or
I
just
would want to
what
get
kind of
a rim protector. I would,
Okay.
just because you have a scoring big that you can go to in Janai. You have Jalen, who can be a scoring big, right? So I think you need a guy that's more Dylan Cardwell and less Janai Broome. Like, you really need Walker Kessler again, right? Like, you need to find another Walker Kessler out there to anchor your defense, to put you in a position where if he needs to step out and shoot, sometimes he can, but that's not really what he's there for. He's there to catch lobs, get rebounds, block shots.
Okay.
Right. And we just don't have that guy. Dylan Cardwell's supposed to be that guy for this team. And for whatever reason, he's never really manifested to that guy as a starter. If he can make that transition, great. But the problem, and I've said this many a times, when you're looking at the transfer portal, the problem you have with getting quality in the transfer portal, specifically in basketball, is those guys want to be able to get starter minutes. Whether or not they start is different, but they want to get starter minutes, meaning they're going to want to play 15 to 20 minutes per game. So you have to have solidified rotations and a plan to make sure they're going to be able to showcase their talent, because unlike with football, you can play a bunch of guys and get them quality minutes, and those minutes can mean something at the next level, even if they're not starters.
And did Lee go into the portal recently?
I actually don't know when he hit the portal. I just know he's in there right now, and he has been on Auburn's radar.
We got a question here from Chris Sanders, Ike, and he's asking, wasn't Janai Broome supposed to be that rim protector? I mean, he was one of the top. He was among the top in the nation in blocks the year that Kessler was leading college basketball.
And he still does well at blocking shots. Let's not, but
I think we needed him. We needed him on the offensive side when we came down, in my opinion.
Here's the thing about Janai Broome that is evident, right? So at the other level, he's playing against less talented guys, so he's going to block more shots at that level, number one. Number two, he's actually better at blocking shots when he's blocking the shot from the guy he's guarding than he is as an off-ball rim protector. Like, Walker Kessler was that guy who would come out of nowhere, and anybody who came to the lane, he was changing shots, blocking shots, right? Janai's not really that guy. He's got to work on his ability to move his feet off the ball a little bit better to be that kind of rim protector where you don't get no free buckets when Janai's in the game. Cardwell's actually not that bad at that. He fouls more than he blocks shots, but still, he's a good presence in there for that sort of thing. Janai's not really that guy. Janai gets a lot of his blocks by playing and good body position against guys who he's actually defending at a time. A lot of his blocks come that way. And so I just think in order to be able to be the kind of guy I'm talking about for the kind of defense that Bruce Pearl and company want to play, you need a guy who's altering / blocking shots a lot in the lane just from off the ball.
Got it. Stuart Donald asks about Devin Cambridge, who's back in the portal, and Auburn is up for consideration. Thoughts
I don't
on
know
him?
that Auburn's reached out to Devin, but Devin has Auburn on his short list of places where he would want to transfer to. I haven't, I don't know that there has been a reciprocation of that yet. There might have been. Here's my thing about Devin Cambridge. I think that he would be does Devin Cambridge want to come off the bench is the question. If Devin Cambridge wants to come off the bench, then I think you go get him, because he's going to be a good energy guy. He's going to always give you a lot of hustle. I loved his energy on rebounding. He seemed to shoot the ball a little bit better this last season. And, listen, he already knows what it's about. But the issue I have is there are people who I get confused, right? I get super confused sometimes when people start putting theories out there about who they want to come back and who they want to go get in the portal. If you didn't like Alan Flanagan, what about Devin Cambridge? Because they're the same player, except Allen Flanagan can actually handle the basketball. Same player.
Yeah.
Athletic guy, works hard on defense, goes and gets your boards.
And you can argue maybe a better shooter.
Jump out of the gym. They're going to shoot in the 30s percentage from the three-point line, except Allen Flanagan can handle the basketball better. So if you didn't like Allen Flanagan, what do you love about Devin Cambridge? They're the same guy.
Catches oops.
So can Allen. Allen can jump out the gym.
Sure.
I don't understand. I don't understand saying Allen Flanagan. Oh, he's a walking turn. Do y'all remember Devin Cambridge turning the ball over a bunch? Do you remember? Again, not because I am one for some reason feel like I'm in the minority of people who think Allen Flanagan should be welcome back on this basketball team next year. So I'm not disparaging either of them. I'm saying I don't understand. Allen Flanagan has served his time. Oh, I'm interested in Devin Cambridge. I don't understand that.
Yeah. Glennis Curry is asking, what have you heard about Julian Phillips? I believe this is the guy who picked Tennessee over Auburn almost a year ago. I don't
Julian
think
Phillips has not officially.
He's not entered, but I've heard rumors that he could be entering the portal.
A lot of rumors about him potentially entering the portal, but has not done so yet. So that's about all I've heard, is that he could potentially enter. I don't see any reason why Auburn would have gone after him so heavily before and he not be somebody who they would go after if he entered the portal again. Julian Phillips is going to present some of the same issues that you're going to have from last year. Not a great outside shooter. Didn't prove to be that for Tennessee. A lot better with the ball in his hands and finishing at the rim, though, right? So that's probably the one thing that I would say would be a separator for a Julian Phillips versus a Devin Cambridge, Allen Flanagan. Not necessarily as athletic as those guys, but much better finishing around the rim from the mid-range. So he gives you a different element than those guys do. And he's a great defender, right? So he's got some athleticism, got some ball handling skills. Not a great outside shooter, good but not great. Better in the mid-range, better at finishing around the rim than those guys would be. So definitely somebody who I think Auburn should entertain bringing in, but not going to be this guy who's going to, fill it up from three-point range.
Do you think that's who Auburn should go after? Someone who can do that from that position?
What's
the ideal guy in Ike's opinion for that position?
Yeah, I mean, 6'6", 6'7" guy who can shoot it from range at a 30% above clip, I think is the ideal guy, but still can handle the ball a little bit, right? Because what you want to be able to do, in my opinion, with a Bruce, like you would want to get a guy with how Bruce wants to play up and down the floor, is get someone who can be a secondary ball handler, right? And a guy who stretches the defense in the short corner, right? So like make sure that backside rotation is just a little bit slower. And if he can shoot it from range, you're going to have an opportunity for guys like Janai Broome to operate a little bit better if Janai is good at finding that backside guy, right? So ideally, that's who you want. But having a guy who can shoot it okay, but is a good slasher is another good. So that's why Julian Phillips works, because he can shoot it well enough that you have to respect it. But he also is good enough to put, because again, this is the same problem I have with Devin Cambridge. If he wasn't shooting the ball when he caught it out on the outside, he wasn't putting the ball on the floor and threatening, because he can't. He's not a slasher like that, right?
Right.
And that's the problem you have with Allen Flanagan, is though Allen Flanagan can dribble better, he gets himself in trouble a lot of times when he gets to the lane, because he's picking up charges or he's having turnovers, because he's not they close out on me quickly, let me go get to it. He really is, they are closing out on me quickly, let me get to my step back three, right? Like that's what he did better at. So I would like a guy, he's either going to be a catch and shoot guy, or he's going to be a guy who can hit the three, but maybe not at the highest clip, maybe a low 30s, high 20s guy, but is really good at attacking closeouts and getting to the rim under control. But got to be able to defend from that position. 3-and-D, optimal, slasher and defender is probably the secondary place I would want to go.
Okay. Good stuff, man. We'll keep an eye out on the portal for basketball as well and keep you guys posted. Ike, tell the people what they need to be doing, sir.
Need to become a member, man. As we start to get some portal guys in, I promise you I'm going to find film on them as much as I can. I am getting film together on Denver Jones as I am talking right now. I have a couple of games of him that I'm cutting up to try to get you guys some film on that. Got to become a member to be able to see that stuff. Got to become a patron to be able to watch it on demand whenever you want to. $5.99 gets you to that level. If you are a member and you want to gift memberships, you can do that from the live chat right now. Before we get out of here, you can gift a membership. We thank you to those of you, that being Jazzy Joe and Brian Hancher, who have gifted those memberships today. We appreciate you guys continuing to support us in those ways. You can head to thewarreport.com to check out our merch. Got some new merch that's going to be dropping soon, so you guys keep your eyes out for that. Some new stuff that I've been working on to get to you. And if you want to listen to us on podcast, the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report, is where you go. A lot of great stuff happening over there. Make sure you check us out on any place that you listen to podcasts.
Before we get out of here, got an interesting question by William Kelly. He asked C and Ike, who y'all got in the NBA playoffs? I'm Laker Nation. Sorry to hear that,
Hold
William
on,
Kelly.
Let me check real quick and tell you if
See what the Bulls doing? You see what the Bulls doing?
see. Chicago in their play-in game is
What are they doing?
I'm looking at their Twitter and it doesn't say who's winning. I'll tell you whether I care after tonight. Yeah. Chicago makes it to the next round, and
Chicago is leading by 2 with
Okay.
under 3 minutes left. So while you still care, who you got?
Chicago
Bulls.
Yeah.
Okay. I like Chicago too, but they ain't making it.
No, we're definitely not winning a title. We're not a title contending team, but I will only care about the playoffs as long as Chicago is in them.
I see. So you don't really watch a lot of championship games. Then
Not lately. No, have not been watching a lot of the 49ers have been my ability to watch championships in like the last decade because we've been to a few of those. Outside of that, no.
I think I got the Suns and the Bucks in a rematch in the finals.
That sounds solid.
I got the Suns and the Bucks in a rematch. I haven't quite made up my mind who I think is going to win that, but that's who I like coming out of the conferences so far. So we'll go with that. All right, guys, gals, thanks again for supporting us. You already know what to do. Share this video on social media. Smash that like button before you get out of here and subscribe if you're new to the channel. I've mentioned a few social media platforms that we're on, being Facebook and Twitter, but we're also on IG at The War Rapport. You can also find us at TW Rapport as well. That's it for now, guys. We will definitely catch you in a couple of days with the morning drop on Friday. Next time you'll see us. But until then, enjoy the rest of your evening. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.